Hey, welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Gary.
Hi, Gary.
And you're Josh 1, and this is Josh 2. Yeah. Or Josh also, as we call him.
Oh, okay.
So, anyway...
Josh squared.
Josh squared?
I like that.
So, anyway, Josh Moore was a state representative with me for 2 terms. Then he abandoned me in 2018.
Yep.
Which was I was pretty scared and alone. I felt
it was devastating, wasn't it? It left a scar on your life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's usually what happens.
Yeah. So where'd you go? Why did you abandon me? What happened?
Yeah, well, I got bored of you and I left. I said, I'm getting out of New Hampshire.
It's got nothing to do with
hurtful.
the paycheck, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, I was making bank there, and but I said, you know what? This is becoming too much. This is becoming a stumbling block. This kind of money in my life.
Right.
I can't deal with this anymore. So I left. No, I actually came up with this bright idea of thinking, you know what? I think it's time to spread the wings and take the politics to at a new level and see what's out there and available in other parts of the U.S.
Stop touching the mic.
So, I can't do that anymore, huh? So, that's what I did, and I went to Texas. Now I'm in Florida, and then COVID hit. Oh boy.
No, wait. So you were down there for 2 years. You went to Texas first.
I went to Texas first.
Okay.
I did.
And viewers might you've been on the show before, right?
I think one time.
Yeah. So the viewers might know that he and his dad are storm chasers.
Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
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 Man.
That's gonna be part of the story.
I keep telling my wife I want to do a storm chasing vacation. You take me with you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Actually, that's going to be part of the story later on, but we're going to be
Usually
putting on
takes-
some tour.
usually
we're
takes-
gonna have fun talking about that.
He usually takes pretty girls.
Oh.
So
I was just.
So how do
really-
you
I-
identify?
I
I was ready to leave an awkward silence there. That's going to be great. Gary,
How do you self-identify? So what?
So I went to Texas.
Yes.
Started establishing myself there and when I got involved in the Texas political scene.
Yeah.
I got in touch with a couple of very large, prominent groups in Texas, and it was working out really well. Getting connected.
Yeah.
But Texas is a big state, so I was talking to a number of operatives there, and they said, I think people are going to love you. You just gotta be here a little while, establish relationships.
Right.
I said, I'm game. I'm planning on staying here for a long time, Well, then COVID hit, and the beginning of March is when things really started kicking in.
Yeah.
And my dad flew down to Texas. We did our first storm chase in March. We usually do it in May.
Right.
Actually, we always do it in May, and that's when at the end of that trip, we caught a couple, 2 or 3 tornadoes. And at night, and he left.
When you say caught, like you put him in
let
like
me
a bottle?
rephrase that.
Roped them, he wrangled them Texas
Yeah.
style.
Yeah, of
That's what I
course.
was thinking.
I threw a Pokeball at it and said, "Gotta catch them all."
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
for all
okay,
the
that
for
works.
all my peers out there who remember Pokemon back in the late '90s.
Yeah.
But in any case, I parted ways with my dad at that time, and I just on the tripwise. And he said, I think you should go to Florida and wait this thing out because I think it's about to get much worse than people expect. And I was like, yeah, I could see that with our little tyrannical government that we have, So
Yeah.
I decided from then on, I said, you know what? Because I was getting ready to get an apartment. I was getting ready to get established. I was working, boom, 50+ hours a week, this and that. I said, I think I'm going to have to go and Uber and Lyft, and I think I'm going to have to go and check out Florida and kind of stay with family for a little bit just to feel things out. And then this thing kept going and going, and the economy kept plummeting further and further. I thought, oh, boy. So ever since then, I've been in Florida.
Okay.
Ever since June. Well, actually, no, I think April. April.
Because in January you took me. You were still up here for a little bit because you took me and my grandsons to the airport because you were doing Uber stuff.
Yes, sir.
And you were uber awesome.
Uber awesome.
Uber
Yeah,
awesome.
I think I left January 9th.
Yeah.
January 9th is the day I left. So I've been in Florida ever since then, and I've just been connecting as much as I can with people.
And how's Florida look as far as politically? Is it completely different than Texas, I assume?
It's pretty different than Texas. Florida, it's tough because I got involved in the political scene in Texas, but I did not get involved in the political scene in Florida because by the time I got to Florida, COVID had hit and all the events got canceled, and they're just now beginning to start back up.
Right,
a little
right,
bit.
right.
I mean, it's like 6 months worth of no action.
How the heck
politically.
do you do that? How do you afford to just go someplace and just stay there?
I rob
You-
banks.
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
basically like being a
That'll do it.
politician.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've been a
Same thing.
politician.
It's just different,
You
different.
know, and I think
branch.
for like a few weeks I worked for the IRS, so stealing money was nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, am I gonna get in trouble for this? It's gonna be like a soundbite if I run for
Yeah.
public office.
Absolutely.
Nice.
It will be.
No, I work. You know, Uber and Lyft are good for that. You know, you transfer city to city, and it takes a little bit, like a half a week to a week or so. But you transfer one city to another, and yeah,
You're
that's pretty
back
much how
up
it
in
works.
business.
back
you,
up in business.
You have to transfer each time.
You
can't-
do. You have to register in different markets.
Oh, you have to have your own vehicle registered. That's why. I
Right.
getcha.
I don't
Like you
like.
can't just drive off on vacation
See,
and
I used to be able to do that when I first started driving for Lyft in 2016 and Uber in January of 2017. You could do that. I actually drove down to Florida once or twice at that time, and I could turn my Lyft and Uber app on anywhere. Well, mostly anywhere in the country, and I could drive it. But they changed the way it functions and where you have to register, so on and so forth. So I can still drive Uber here in New Hampshire, but it's
so
only Uber
we're,
Eats.
we're going downhill. It's going to go back down into taxi cab medallions here at some point,
They're trying to get it there.
right?
They're trying to get it there. I don't think it's going to work though because the IRS recognizes Lyft and Uber drivers, rideshare, really the platform,
Right.
as independent contractors. So if they are,
California doesn't want that to take place. California wants to force Uber to call them all employees, and
right, but if you call everybody an employee, then Uber has one of two choices. They either have to keep your vehicle up and running for you, right, or they have to buy vehicles for you, company vehicles,
Right.
because it's. I mean, that's ridiculous to be an employee and then them pay a certain wage that they decide, but you still have to use your own car.
right.
That's not, taxi cabs don't do that,
Right.
taxi cabs. So it's basically, that's exactly as you described. That's why I don't foresee it happening. Lyft and Uber already pushed back on that too.
Right.
They said, no, this is not feasible at all. And I'm like, I knew that. you know?
Right, right.
But we know
It takes away the
California-
whole idea of the concept
It
of
does. It ruins
people doing it part time. Does anybody do like Ubers like from Florida to New Hampshire or back or?
I'm aware of a handful of trips that have done that. I know that there have been many trips made where someone would go from like New Hampshire to Chicago or something like that. They're not common. Those are not common.
They're expensive.
they're very
More
expensive.
expensive than an airplane ticket.
That's right.
Okay.
The longest trip I ever did was last summer, and I actually picked somebody up in Merrimack, which is where the district I was serving in, and northern Merrimack, in fact. And I picked him at a camp, and I took the guy all the way downtown to Brooklyn.
Oh, really?
Brooklyn, New York. Yep. Yep.
Wow.
So that was a pretty long trip, but it was good money.
Yeah, because you have to. In that
Where
case,
people, I can imagine the multiple Uber drivers in the area looking at their phone saying, "Yeah, I want that gig. I want that gig." Right? Just because of the amount it paid.
Well,
right?
well,
Isn't that how it works?
The way it works is the driver gets paired up with the I should say the passenger gets paired up with the nearest available driver. At the time, I was the nearest available driver, so I got paired up with that person, and so I didn't get to pick and choose. It's not like I get to go through a list,
But
and
you get to refuse
That's
one
correct.
if you wanted to, right?
it randomly pops
Oh,
up, and then I
okay,
have the option
so-
of refusing that random ride and waiting for the next
Got
random
it,
ride to come
right.
up. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So
So
that
I think DoorDash might be a different way. You get to choose. I
that's
think.
pretty cool. So I tried to sign up for DoorDash
Like
in
you see
Gainesville,
a
Florida,
few-
and they're on a waiting list. They put me on a wait. I was like, what? Come on, I should be like A class here,
Right,
You know,
right.
they call it A
Well,
class
your
or
phone is GPS is in New Hampshire right now. You can try to sign up now. See if they let you sign
that's
up
a
in
good
New
point.
Hampshire.
Unless they have different areas of registration, because if I sign up here and they allow me to do it, then I have to do it again in Gainesville. Which I don't know. It's a totally weird system that they've all designed to come up with. But I've been doing that. So to answer a long-winded way of answering your question, yeah, that's how you make money out there and everything. And I get to stay with family.
Okay.
It's this season in life is interesting because, and it's not so bad because everybody's life has been sort of uprooted. So at least I can tell people, yeah, in 2020 I had to like move around the nation and stay with family and friends, and so you weren't responsible in getting your own apartment. well, no, that would be silly and foolish considering the economy collapsed and I had money in the bank. Why not just live free with people who let me and enjoy, help people around the house, this and that, and then once all that kind of comes back, the economy, which is, I expect will eventually happen, you get back into gear and you start establishing roots,
Now, how's the storm chasing? Are you still doing that, or did the COVID thing screw that up too?
No, that's a good thing about viruses, or I should say storms against viruses. They don't affect the storms.
No, I just thought, like I was thinking of taking my motorcycle to Florida.
Yeah.
But I knew because of COVID, there'd be so few places I could actually stop and get something to eat, or maybe.
Yeah, we didn't really run into too much of that. Hotels were open, restaurants were open. The Midwest tends to be a little more free, and liberated, if you will. So how many? I think we hit 11 states. We traveled through 11 states in our time of storm chasing, not counting getting out there.
Right.
There's more than 11 states getting out there. But yeah, we hit a lot of them, and the storm chasing was great. This has actually been our best year storm chasing. We spent a whole.
So what is storm chasing? How do you do that? What is that all about?
Well, this all started back in the year 2000 when my dad basically came to my mom and my brother and I and said, "Hey, you guys want to go storm chasing for a week in Texas, for a vacation?" And we were like, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, we knew our dad loved storms, and he went to school for meteorology. At the time, he just started going to FSU, Florida State University, for studying climatology, and specifically geography, but in relation to climate and hurricanes. And so anyway, we went out there for a week and chased, and we said, yeah, we love it. And then next year, he said, you want to go out again? We're like, yeah, go out again next year. And then eventually it became this tradition. And so we've been doing it about 20 years.
So the family packs up and goes storm chasing. Do you do it in a particular vehicle? Do you do it with a group of other storm chasers?
Good question.
What kind of equipment do you carry?
Yeah, we don't go with other storm chasers. The community has enlarged quite a bit over the decades. I should say at this point now, it's been that long. We use some very basic equipment. And it should be known that the equipment has evolved over the years, but we haven't necessarily added to. Like, for example, we used to use a camcorder, right? Those old things, remember back in the 90s and early 2000s?
Yeah.
Bulky things. Yeah, we used to use one of those. And, of course, now we don't need that because you have iPhones. The iPhones have gotten much better. So we use iPhone. My dad has his iPad he uses. We also have some wind gauges and anemometer, which detects the wind, and it's a very nice one now. We have a couple of handheld anemometers, and we also have let's see what they call. I forget what he calls it. Anyway, it measures how much rain you get. So we have a number of different tools that we use to measure and gather data, and it's very nice. But
now, how do you? Because I would think a lot of it is trying to understand where the low pressure areas are moving and how quickly. How do you gauge that with, or is that just looking at the National Weather?
I wish it were as simple as looking at the National Weather Center or the Storm Prediction Center when it's tornado season, or the Hurricane Center when it's hurricane season. But so basically, that's what my dad does. He's the meteorologist. I try to keep track as much as I can. I try to learn everything I can, and I've been doing that the last year or two, especially more so this year, because I'm far separated from him now. So. Used to, I would just say, hey, Dad, we'll go over to the house. Hey, Dad, what's going to happen with the weather? What are we looking at? Now I've got to kind of pinpoint it myself and look on the Storm Prediction Center and gauge it and learn how to use the website tools and stuff. But overall, that's what he does. He focuses, he's got paid for subscriptions where he can look at data. And he dives deep, and he's looking not days, not weeks, but months ahead of time. He looks at weather patterns, and he gauges based on weather patterns what is most likely to happen at this time for this year. And that's how he figures it out. And we get it. We were in Hurricane Sally, which was a Cat 2, 3 weeks ago, I guess. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, that hit Alabama. And then we were 2 weeks prior to that, which was about a month ago, we were in Hurricane Laura, which devastated Lake Charles, Louisiana. It was a Category 4. So we've spent in total now about a month and a half storm chasing, I guess.
Now, do you make money at it?
That's what our goal is. Our goal for my father is to begin monetizing on this by selling footage or giving to media companies, whoever it may be that reaches out to us and wants to use it, contracting with them, selling apparel and so on. So yeah, it's fun.
Good evening. You're on Rock Paper Hand Grenades. How you doing?
Very good. I just turned on to watch you guys, and I have a question for the gentleman sitting there. What is the actual chance? You always hear the thing: if you are in a car, you won't. If lightning strikes, the car will save you. Is that true? That's pretty much my. And the old adage is, if you're standing out in the field and should you stay away from a tree or get underneath the tree? I'm always curious about that. I've heard you're safe with the car because of the wheels, so I just wanted to see if you might be able to straighten that out a little bit. Anyways, thanks very much.
It's a very good question.
Thank you.
Yep, very good question. Yeah, you are safe in the car. The car is grounded with rubber tires, so it's perfectly fine.
That's not why.
Yeah, no.
No, it is not why.
Well,
The rubber tires would have to be like 100 inches thick or something like that.
Well, let me rephrase it.
So wait.
I've never in my life, and I've chased hundreds of storms. I've never in my life had that car hit before. I'm not even close.
I get okay. Anyway, listen. So what happens? The reason you're safe in a car, and it creates a Faraday cage.
Yep.
So Faraday cage is like you could be out in a ball that's made of steel, right, and going along, and what would happen is the electricity would hit the outside of the ball and ground itself. So when a car is hit by lightning, it travels on the exterior of the vehicle and then grounds. It has nothing to do with rubber tires.
It sounds good though.
But it does sound good, but it's called a Faraday cage, and that's what you're in effect. You're in a Faraday cage. So, like a motorcycle doesn't help at all, even though it's got rubber tires.
Well, that would make sense. Being on a motorcycle would not help you. That would definitely make sense. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't. I've never been hit in my life, and like I said, we've been in hundreds of lightning storms, vicious lightning storms in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. I mean, the lightning is spreading out. It's striking down.
Did it like any mess up your equipment ever?
Never. It's never done that. Yeah. But it's a great question, and it totally makes sense. And actually, it's funny because when we were chasing this year, there are questions that came up in my mind because we've chased hurricanes before, and I'm like, man, I feel like this hurricane was a letdown. Like, it didn't do what I had expected it to do, and then these two hurricanes did, and then I realized why. But that's a whole different conversation we could probably get into. But I guess my point is with the questions that come up, because I have my own, even having chased so many storms, I still had questions about why does this happen? Why does that not happen? I'll ask my dad because it's so cool. At 31 years of age, I'm still learning all this stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's humbling. And I'm, I get to spread out with all these weather communities. So
that is wicked cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So the other question was about the tree versus out in the field. You're You're in a big field. Lightning starts striking. There's a tree.
So is the question why, or is the question...
Well, should you lay down in the field or go next to the tree for protection?
So here's the first thing. I feel like if I answer that and try to sound smart, you're going to correct me again. So I'm going to avoid the embarrassment. That's the first thing. Number two, hey, it's candid, right? So the other thing is I've never been stupid enough to stand under a tree in a lightning storm, so I don't know. But what I can tell you is being in a car, I've never had that one hit. So there's that. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure I'd be willing to test it.
Electricity will find the shortest path to ground. And if the ground has a tree sticking up this tall, that's the shortest path to ground.
Right.
Right? If you're the only thing standing in the middle of the field,
it's going to go for you.
You are the shortest path to ground.
Oh boy. That's very good. Well, there you go. That answered that question, didn't it?
But if you're standing next to the tree, because my nephew was with the Boy Scouts, I forget where it was in New Hampshire, and lightning storms, so they all got under these trees so they didn't get soaked, and they got fried. My nephew got toast because it hit the tree and then traveled throughout the ground near where they were. So I would, if you don't want to get hit by lightning, the best thing to do would be if there's a tree nearby, get the heck away from the tree and lay down in the, get soaked instead.
Find a ditch.
Ditch or something, some
That's
way to
what
get
you're
yourself lower than and away
yes.
from anything that would conduct electricity.
That's actually what you're supposed to do when a tornado comes and you have nowhere to go either. If there's the only thing left is a ditch, you get in the ditch.
How close have you come to tornadoes?
In 2012, we were in La Crosse, Kansas. Excuse me. In fact, for those who are listening or watching, if you go on your map and look up La Crosse, Kansas, you can find out exactly where that is.
Is it actually lacrosse like the game?
L.A. Crosse, yeah, Crosse, I think it's called.
Okay.
And it's a very old town and very, very small. I mean, really small. And it's south of a small city called Hayes. And it's in central Kansas. So we were there one night. We caught a tornado. Beautiful. Have pictures of it. This was in 2012. And then we went back to town, and I remember sitting beside a Casey's gas station, and a tornado came by and sideswiped us. And we have pictures of it. We have pictures of it as it moved about a half a mile away from us, and going down the road. And I got the breeze. We just had a nice breeze, and there's this ominous-looking rope-shaped tornado with a lightning flashing behind us. It was very, very cool. Yeah, it was incredible. So we've had that, and we've been within a half. We were actually the biggest tornado we caught was an EF4. It was in White Deer, Texas. It did very little damage.
What scale do those go to?
EF0 to EF5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would a 5 be 200-mile-an-hour winds or?
Yeah, I think it's like. Yeah, I think it is 200 plus miles an hour, something in that ballpark.
So an EF4 is 160 to 200?
Something like that, yeah. That's pretty good. You're actually pretty close to nailing it, I think.
He likes watching Twister.
Yeah.
No.
My dad has this theory. My father has this theory that tornadoes are actually much stronger than this scale suggests, right? That's
Okay.
just it's a theory. It's not proven. But that's just comparing storm to storm, tornadoes to hurricanes, their damage path, the way they work, everything. There's a whole entire conversation behind that. But in any case, that is the current scale until we know more. And yeah,
Why do they always go clockwise?
that's a good.
They're
That's a
northern
major.
hemisphere.
Correct. That's
I
a
don't think so.
meteorological question that I'm not.
That's what we
not
should have
ready to
asked our
answer.
guest last week. We had a guy from Australia.
Why not? Yeah, that is true. They do spin on different parts of the hemisphere. They do spin differently. So.
Sure. Okay.
So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun chase. This year's been great, and yeah, I'm looking forward. There's likely going to be a little bit more action in the next week or two.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Western Caribbean.
You're gonna go down there and catch one.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna go right.
So
now.
are you visiting? Is that what
I'm
you're
visiting.
doing?
Yeah. Came back to visit and catch up with old friends, old age friends.
He just called you old,
I
gang.
know he did. I know. I caught that.
That's
Yeah,
my
it's
job.
I know.
Yeah, and then I came back and ended up coinciding with a wonderful debate last night, and then I about broke my parents' TV. No, I'm just kidding.
So what did you think about the debate? What was your?
See how I
Josh,
secretively segued that myself?
I know
That's
you did.
pretty
You
smooth,
did.
wasn't it? I'm not as up in arms about the debate as everybody else is. Here are my two, I guess, main points about it. Number one, when I watch a debate, I actually get tired of the whole moderation when the moderator asks the candidate a question and it says, "Hey, you just heard what they said. Can you rebuttal all that? But speak to me while you're rebuttaling it." And I'm like, let them go at it. Well, they did last night. Of course, against the rules. They're supposed to talk to Chris Wallace, but they were going at it like rabid dogs. I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. I actually expected that to happen. I asked people, I said, what did you expect going in? Did you think they were going to be diplomatic? No, these two guys dislike you. Actually, they probably hate each other. I don't know. But they're diametrically opposed. And in general, I'm going to say in general because I know people are going to be like, oh, give me a break. They both represent the two, and I'll use this term loosely, extremes of America. Trump is like the right-wing guy, and then Biden is considered the left-wing guy. So,
Unfortunately, well, you're absolutely right. You're going to get flack for that,
Right.
Because the reality is neither one of them are on the extremes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden is not AOC, right?
Right.
And yeah. So
Right, and that's why I said extremes loosely because
Right.
Got another
and
phone
it's probably
call.
not even that
Good.
good.
Another
do-
phone
let's do
call.
it in
We
a
probably
row.
just opened up a rat's nest.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
Good
Good
going.
evening. How are you doing? You're on Rock Paper Hand Grenades.
Good evening. My question is for the young man. I was wondering when he's returning to Texas.
Wait. Is she talking to me? I haven't.
Uh-oh. When am
No,
I?
you're the old man.
Oh man.
Wow, that was hurtful. I like that.
Yeah, this when am I returning to Texas? Well, wherever the wind blows.
Whatever the.
That was real. I couldn't pass that. That was
Are
a
you
good
going back
Whenever
to Texas?
the wind blows.
Yeah,
act like
when
a-
we're when the wind blows. Yeah, I don't know right now. My plan is to vote in Florida and then vote in Texas and then in New Hampshire before I settled.
All on the same day? all on November 3rd, right?
Yeah, that's right. Everybody's watching like, is he serious? No, I'm joking. No, I'm at least I'm gonna wait till
Conservatives aren't
after
allowed
the.
to joke. You cannot make jokes as a conservative.
No, yeah, it's against the
I know.
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a
Liberals can joke, but
Well, okay, so a question for the old man. When is the old man going to come to Texas?
Why would I go to Texas?
everything's
Why
bigger in
wouldn't
Texas.
you? You could come and visit me.
Oh, you know who this is.
Oh, I do know. Who
I
that
didn't
is.
know.
Oh, I recognize that voice within about
Oh.
2 seconds. I was like, ooh, that's
Oh,
our friend.
I'm not in on it.
Oh, this is Lynette. She sat next to me for at least one term or just one term, right? We sat next to each
One
other on
term.
judiciary, right?
Yeah, it was just one term, yep.
Yeah. So we were accomplices together, causing trouble.
So we have viewers in Texas now.
We have now viewers.
We've
in
gone
Texas.
nationwide, Gary.
Yeah, well, that's almost nationwide.
Nationwide is
Nation-
on your side.
Nation 2/3. I'd say
Good
nation
commercial.
Okay.
Nation 2/3. We have to wait till we get a phone call from. No, it wouldn't even be California because that's really only. That's only.
I don't care about California.
What about Hawaii?
You need one from like Hawaii or Alaska.
Hawaii
That'd be
or-
really cool.
The Aleutian Islands. Hey, Lynette, can you move to the Aleutian Islands and call us?
Maybe we can get a call
I
from
would love
Tulsi
to-
Gabbard.
I would love to move to Alaska. That would be great.
It would be pretty great.
Lynette wants the
Yeah,
snow.
much cooler than down here.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, hey, I was campaigning today. I stopped at a guy's house in Ware, and he's moving to West Virginia. And he says up in the mountains, it's just about as cool as New Hampshire, but almost no snow.
You know, that's where they invented
I'm
the
jealous.
toothbrush, right?
Yeah, so you might want to look at West Virginia.
In West Virginia,
Well,
that's where they
we gotta
invented the
go where
toothbrush.
BAE sends my
I didn't know that.
husband.
Oh. Well,
Yeah, it's all up to BAE.
oh. So maybe they should have a plant in West Virginia then.
But I miss the snow.
Yeah, I bet you do. I bet you do. All right, well, thank you, young lady.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have
Have a great night, guys.
Good night.
Good to hear from you, Lynette.
Yeah, if you know that they invented.
She's got a pen that I was jealous of. She's got one of those rifle pens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I know.
Oh yeah. So I was
she's
like,
great.
that would.
I was going to say they invented the toothbrush in West Virginia, and you know that's true because if it was invented anywhere else, it would be called a teeth brush.
That's good. I thought you were serious at first. I was like, man, I'm gonna learn something new tonight. Now I got a new joke. I walked away with a new joke. This is great. But I actually like what you said a minute ago, and you were absolutely right about the debate. The fact that you got these two, and they're not really representing extremes; they're representing just the two sides of the coin. I think that was really well said. But overall, I'm not disappointed by anything. I have this whole theory behind it.
I agree. I don't think either one of them lost or gained a vote
Correct.
from their base.
Correct.
No one
I don't
has
think.
changed
I think
their
you're
mind.
wrong.
I don't think anyone has changed their mind based on last night's
I
performance.
think you're wrong. I think. So first, let's go over some of the what happened in the debate. First of all, you had Wallace was basically debating Trump, and let's go over one of the big lies. So he asked Trump about his the Charlottesville, his comment that there were good people on both sides, which was taken out of context. But he did not, and asked him to distance himself from the KKK and white supremacists. He never went to Biden and said, will you denounce Antifa and Black Lives Matter? Because his campaign
Sure.
is helping pay for those people to get out of jail once they burn down a house or
Sure.
or whatever. Okay, so it was completely one-sided, and that was a lie. And Chris Wallace should have known better. If you look at what he said about the people at Charlottesville, that was part of his what he said, but he said he distanced himself. He does not like the white supremacists or the KKK or Antifa, which were all involved in Charlottesville. But he said there are also good people on both sides. In other words, there were people that were upset about the racism
Sure.
on one side, and there were people that didn't want the heritage of all these statues being torn down, without even having a say in it.
Mm-hmm.
So what Trump actually said was completely different than what Chris Wallace portrayed. The effort was to try to reinstill to people that Trump is racist, and that was what it was for.
And that was Chris Wallace's role, regardless of what the debate rules were or what anyone wants to say.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that was his job last night. His job was to go there and
Trip up Trump.
pitch softballs to Biden.
That's correct. And in fact, I agree with what you said, but I think that the question really is: were any minds changed? And
Well,
no, they weren't.
I don't
think
I
they
see
were.
it. Okay, yeah, I kind of got lost on that subject. So I think they were
And for what
because-
reason?
Well, whose
be-
minds were changed?
liberals. And I'll tell you why. And I saw it on Faceplant afterwards. So what Trump successfully did was get Biden to say he does not support the Green New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something else he got Biden to.
Biden refused to denounce Antifa.
He refused to denounce Antifa. He refused to say that he wouldn't pack the court. For the people who don't know, the Democrats have threatened, right now, as long as I've been alive, as far as I know, we've always had 9 justices. What the Democrats are threatening to do is if they get control of the Senate and the presidency, is to add an extra 4 United States Supreme Justices and make sure they're very liberal.
I heard Pelosi say a couple of weeks ago, up to 10.
Okay, so up to
They
10.
want to pack 10. They want 19 judges on the Supreme Court, and they want whoever the next liberal president is to appoint those other 10.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
so,
they're-
so Biden was asked directly by Wallace, do you support that or will you denounce that? What is your, and Biden refused to answer it.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think, so Biden at one point, I believe it was at the beginning or near the beginning, they were talking about the Supreme Court, and I think he had mentioned that, the process was unconstitutional, right? They mentioned the process of going about
What process?
well, the process of appointing a
The
justice.
president appointing a
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's literally written in the Constitution.
Right. So what he's
That's the
saying
president's
is
responsibility.
right. And so what Biden and the Democrats, of course, are saying is this is unconstitutional. I've heard several of them say it's unconstitutional. My question to pitch to them: what about it? What they're doing is unconstitutional. Can you point to me? Because what I've heard them bring up one definitely is they'll say that it's being rushed. Well, it's not unconstitutional to rush it. That's precedence. Precedence has nothing to do with the Constitution.
No, but there is precedence, right? So on the day that RBG died, there were 46 days to the election.
Oh, sure.
All right. RBG herself
Yeah.
was appointed and approved and sat
Right.
in less than 46 days.
Right.
So there's nothing. The
Right.
precedent is there to rush this through.
Right, and that's my
Right?
point.
In fact, something like 75% of Supreme Court justices have been appointed and approved in under 50 days.
Correct. And that's my point, is that it's precedent, and that's fine. But they're calling it unconstitutional, but it's not, because their Article 3 covers the judicial branch of the federal government. There are only 3 sections. And not in no point in those 3 sections is there a timeline given by which a Supreme Court justice should be appointed.
Right.
Nothing.
In fact, it's encouraged to be as quick as possible.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
Well, right-
because you don't want an empty seat on the court. In
right-
case something happens, like if an election comes up and you need the Supreme Court to make a decision on something,
Right.
or if an emergency, a war, and there's a conflict between the Congress and the president, there's always got to be a full court in case an emergency takes place.
So yeah, basically that's it. So if she is not on the Supreme Court, and we have an election which is what everybody predicts, which is going to be a horror show. It's going to be contested, and there will be contested parts of it all around the country. And so if you end up bringing that to the Supreme Court and there's a 4-4 decision,
Yeah,
the country is in limbo.
it sure is.
And that is probably a bigger crisis than Democrats being upset because Trump wants to appoint somebody.
That limbo is exactly what they're looking for.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've said it already on this show. On November 3rd, the Joe Biden is going to refuse to concede. By the way, there's nothing in the Constitution that says the loser has to concede. He can lose without conceding, right? Trump can still declare victory with the Electoral College. But they're going to refuse to concede. They're going to put this into legal, right? They're going to hope that the Supreme Court is divided 4-4, right? That's what they don't want an appointed. They don't want ACB appointed. They don't want her sat.
Yep.
So they want a divided Supreme Court. They want to drag this out in legal. And on January 20th, 2021, when
No clear victor has
when
been.
there's no clear victor, they want the next person in line to take over, which is the Speaker of the House.
Mm-hmm.
So this constitutional crisis, this is what they're looking for. They want to drag it out to that point,
Oh, I know they do.
right? So
So it's basically
that's their plan.
The-
Either Biden wins on November 3rd or Pelosi gets inaugurated on January 20th. That's their plan, and they're going to do everything they can to drag this out. And the Supreme Court is part of the plan. I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
no.
It's good.
You're absolutely right. They're unless this is an absolute blowout.
One thing that I think is really unfortunate is just how powerful the Supreme Court has become and how much power we've yielded to that court. Because Hamilton in Federalist number 78, even mentions that, talking about in no way is the judicial branch going to be powerful enough to be a threat to the liberties of the Americans.
Good evening. You're on Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. We got a lot of calls tonight.
Hey, I got a question for you folks on the show. I was listening to one of the talking heads on the radio, and they were saying that very few presidential elections are not decided on November 3rd. They said they was the guy. I forget the guy's name, but he was saying that all this hype about the election's going to be a mess, it's going to go to the Supreme Court, is a very odd that would happen. And he's predicting that there will be an answer on November 3rd. And he says much ado about nothing. So I'm gonna get your opinion about that. And I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I don't agree with that. It is true that most elections
yeah.
are known that night. All right. So this last one we didn't know till early in the morning the next day. Right.
Yeah, I know. I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning.
And even at that point, Hillary did not concede. It took
Correct.
her another day, right? In 2000, Al Gore didn't concede.
Correct.
He didn't concede for another month,
Right.
right? In fact, the last Democrat to lose an election, a presidential election, and actually concede on the night of the election was...
Jimmy Carter.
It was either Carter or Massachusetts.
Oh,
Dukakis.
yeah.
It was
Dukakis. Yeah, that makes more sense.
So
That tank photo.
it's been
is
what,
so
more than
stupid.
30 years since a liberal, since a Democrat has actually conceded and gracefully acted in the interest of the
Appropriately.
country.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
And the fact is, that's not going to happen this time. Biden and his handlers are not going to concede. They're going to go along with the precedent set by Mr. Al Gore and Hillary Clinton.
Well,
they're not going to concede, and we're not going to know on November 3rd.
I think it's also a lot different well, I don't know that that's true. It depends. But I think there's a lot more variables this time. The Democrats have successfully used COVID-19 as an excuse for mail-in ballots. So the viewers understand there's a huge difference between what Trump does and what our servicemen and women do, which is absentee ballots. An absentee ballot is, I got health problems, I can't go to the town hall or down to the voting place on November 3rd, so I contact the town clerk, and I send in the information, and she sends me a ballot, and I sign it, and then send it back, okay? That's one thing, because I know that A, I'm getting a ballot, and B, the town checks my name off that I've received the ballot. So those are traceable, okay? Mail-in ballots, which are completely, I believe some states have used them in the past, but it's very limited use. But a lot of states are doing is mailing out ballots to every registered voter. In some places, there's reports of Democrats getting 2 or 3 ballots. And how do you keep track if somebody actually gets the ballot, fills it out, sends it in, and then goes down and votes on November 3rd also?
Agreed. I don't know how they track that.
And it is happening. I can tell you that my grandmother received her mail-in ballot in Maine about a week and a half ago.
Did she ask for it?
Well, she's been buried at Arlington National Cemetery for the last 4 years.
Your grandmother's at Arlington National Cemetery?
She's with my grandfather.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
So
you guys ended up with property from Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, we've got Robert E. Lee's property.
That's
Very
pretty,
nice.
pretty great.
But
That's respectable.
But yeah, no, it's happening. People are getting these unsolicited ballots in the mail all over the country. You know, you've either moved or, well, that's the other thing. Mm-hmm. She got the ballot at my father's house, which he moved into in February of this year, right? When my grandmother died, she was living in Tennessee with her daughter. She wasn't living with my father in Maine, much less the house that he's in now.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds...
So you know, dead people are getting their mail-in ballots. And of course, you know, if you're a liberal and you know you're going to lose this election and you get 4 ballots for dead family members, are you going to fill them out and send them in just to see if it happens?
Right. And then you have to add insult to injury with the recent James O'Keefe and Project Veritas story that came out with harvesting ballots in Ilhan Omar's district, which is a whole problem in and of itself. I think the fact of the matter is people have to know that they are, when I say they, I mean the Democrats, are legitimately trying to steal this election.
And they have a history of doing it.
They do.
You know, here in New Hampshire, we have our famous wolf dog who chases down election fraud and voter fraud.
Ed Nail?
Ed Nail,
By
yeah.
the name of Ed Nail. Oh, he's
Yeah.
a great guy.
I
I've been
know.
on his radio show a few times. The man's mind is like a safe, right? He's got everything in there,
Yeah.
just
great.
sit down and talk with him, and he will lay out the facts for voter fraud every single case for the last 10, 15 years.
Oh, I
It
know,
happens
yeah.
in every state. It's just not reported or prosecuted.
It's not prosecuted because there's a lot of times the Democrats say, well, there's no cases of voter fraud in New Hampshire. Well, that's because they weren't prosecuted.
That's exactly right.
So if the AG isn't following up, they actually have this time, though. They actually caught at least 3 or 4 people doing voter fraud in 2016.
Yeah, and see this.
So-
This is bad. So it really makes me wonder too. At the end of the election, what is our world overall, our nation, going to look like after November?
Well, you saw the
4th,
debate last
you know?
night,
I did see the debate
so
last
now
night.
you know.
I saw the reactions on Twitter and Facebook too. It's amazing to see how people. I mean, I've actually seen a lot of Trump supporters that were not happy with Trump and the way he handled himself and everybody else. But, you know, I don't take this stuff personal either. You know, I'm going to be voting for Trump. But I don't take it personal when somebody you know hates on the guy or goes after him or whatever and says, oh, I can't believe he did this. But I do question judgment. I question the way people think because I know how I'm thinking, and I think I'm logical in the way I'm trying to present all this. You know,
I know exactly what you're talking about. So I have plenty of acquaintances who are Trump fans or Trump voters, plan on voting for Trump. But then there's this group of people who say, yeah, I'm going to vote for him, but I don't like his personality. You know, he's rough around the edges. Oh, he was being a bully to Biden. I don't buy that, right? What's happened is the media has put into our brains the idea of being presidential, right? Being civil, you know, and that is out the window. I don't care if the man is rough around the edges. He's gotten results, right?
Right.
I don't care if he's a bully to the people that are pushing back on his agenda.
Well, wait.
Right? But that's what you've got. You've got the never Trumpers who say, "Oh, he's not presidential," right? They claim that they're conservatives, but then they say, well, I really don't like, you know, he could act differently. He doesn't need to tweet like that. You know, he needs to stay off Twitter and stop doing those things. But those are the things that got him where he
Right.
is. And those are the things that made me want to vote for him in the first place.
I totally agree, and that's what's very confusing because I've seen people since last night come out and they'll say, I just can't believe people want to support this kind of person. I can't believe that he would do this. He's such a bully. And I'm like, what? I actually have a friend of mine who said, I voted for him in 2016. I regret it, and you know I'm not going to do it again. You know, because of this last night what I saw, and I thought, how did he get worse than since 2015? I mean, because what's changed?
You have to turn it around on him and say, look, if Biden can't stand up to that, how in the heck is he going to stand up to world leaders in support of our country?
I agree.
Right? If Biden can't stand in front of a camera without a teleprompter, how the hell is he going to make any type of a deal with anyone around the world? He's not. He's going to bend over for China and the Ukraine, just like he has been doing.
Well, he made a lot of money on that, so you know.
Again, bend over.
Right.
Yeah. It's an issue, and I think that people are going to have to. One thing that I always focus back around, and I'm going to be talking about this on my podcast tomorrow night, Libertas with Josh Moore. Yeah, if you can go to my page and check it out.
My page.
What we're going to be doing is I got 30 minutes to basically lay out the case as to what we should look for specifically in a Supreme Court justice. What does the Constitution say about Supreme Court justices, right? Their duties. And specifically, I'm going to counter the attacks that have already occurred and will inevitably occur, especially when she goes before the Senate for her confirmation hearing, the attacks on her faith, and which is going to bring into question the issue and the topic of separation of church and state, which is my topic. That's what I love discussing that stuff because I read a lot about the founding fathers.
Those words don't exist in any of the documents.
They don't exist in any of the documents, but people think they do, and it's oftentimes the left, right? And they immediately run with it, and I'm like, do you even know where that came from? So I'm going to be diving into the history of that and explaining.
Supreme Court justice is where it came from.
Right, exactly.
I thought it was Jefferson that was talking to the Danbury Baptist that said there's a wall of separation.
Yeah.
Then Judge Hugo Black used it in the prayer in school case, I believe it was.
Well, it was.
But the interesting thing about Hugo Black was, A, he was a member of the KKK, and B, he said in his opinion on that case that, you know, Christianity is such an integral part of the United States, we'll never see a day when this decision will ever affect that relationship.
Right.
He was wrong. He was wrong about his association with the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
He was wrong in that decision.
And so what we're going to see is the attacks on Amy Barrett, right? And they've already said, you know, is your faith going to play a pivotal role in your decisions? Because if so, that's not okay. But my rebuttal question is, well, when has their the current justices, when has their own worldview, right, faith slash worldview, when has that not played a role in their own? Because the fact of the matter is, we're all biased human beings. We all have a worldviews and faiths that whether you're agnostic, atheist, or whatever.
Well, the thing is she's replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I don't know, but I assume Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an atheist. I don't know.
I don't either.
Okay.
But I think it's safe to say.
Okay, so that's
true.
I think safe to say.
Yeah.
So let's presume she was, for my argument's sake. To believe that everything you see before you today happened out of nothing requires a gross amount of faith. So everybody on the Supreme Court has a faith that colors their decision.
Yes.
So
But
therefore,
this particular faith has a name, and it's Christianity.
and they don't like it.
Exactly.
And it's an attack.
And that's all it is.
And that's why
all
I
it
say
is.
it's an attack on Christianity. It's an attack on the faith, and they're going to go after her for it. And I'm going to explain, and what I'm been explaining to people on Facebook and Twitter and so on and so forth, is the Founding Fathers wholly believed that you should have a faith, you should believe in God, because there is a higher power that you're held accountable to, not just government officials and whatnot. Right. And so they preferred elected officials and appointed officials to believe in God, and specifically Christianity. They had arguments over what sect of Christianity, but Christianity as a whole. And Benjamin Franklin talks about this. Benjamin Rush is one of my favorites, talks about this. Fisher Ames, who's one of the framers of the First Amendment, by the way, who helped start a Bible society, talks about this stuff. So these are people, some of these people our Americans haven't even heard of before. They don't pay attention to it, and they have to know this. And I'm all about empowering. I don't want people to feel stupid. I don't want people to feel stupid that they don't know this stuff. I want people to know this information so they can look back at the founders and the framers and what they did right and say, okay, that's the original intent. By the way, that's going to come up to textualism versus original intent, right? What does the text of the Constitution say verbatim? And then when it doesn't spell it out right, what is the original intent, right? What's the spirit of the law?
We can find that original intent in the Federalist Papers
That's
and
exactly
the Anti-Federalist
and
Papers.
the thing-
and in other correspondence.
Because
That's
because
exactly right.
The Constitution was not ratified on the day that it was written.
Correct.
It took months. It took years.
It did.
It literally took years.
It did.
To be ratified. And during that period of time was something going on, something like this, right? We had newspapers and op-eds and debates that were taking place across the country the entire time, and those debates were written in paper. And so the intent of that document is, and we can find it in their own words in the Federalist Papers.
Boom, nailed it. What was that?
I love you, Josh. So we got to bail out. So how can people get in touch with you, or watch your podcast, or just be your best fan ever?
Yeah, people can go to the Patriot Initiative, which is on Facebook. Also check out Libertas, with an AS at the end, Libertas with Josh Moore. I'm going to be going live tomorrow night. We can also go to TPI, that's the initials for the Patriot Initiative, tpiusa.org. We're actually going to be doing a training on constitutional leadership. So if you're a parent, a concerned citizen, an activist, or somebody who's considering or currently running for public office, you can go in there, and we're going to be talking about some of this stuff we talked about tonight with the faith of the Founding Fathers, how they shaped American history, and how to engage in civil discussion and provide a convincing argument, a fruitful discussion. And we're going to be training and talking about that. So that's going to be 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on 5 Depot Street in Merrimack Friday night. So,
Really?
Yeah. Yep. We're going to be doing that. So if you got time, come on over, Gary. But
I
it's gonna be,
might. I know I got something to do Friday night. I don't know what the times are.
Yep.
So if somebody's got multiple personalities, do they engage in civil conversation?
you can do what I do, and you can yell at them
Sybil?
and scream at them, and then you can the next second later you can say, "It's okay, I love you." Isn't that what what's his name does? John Taffer on Bar Rescue. He goes, "Come on!" He's throwing stuff around. He goes, the next morning he goes, "We had a rough night last time, didn't you?" They're going, "Yes, you threw the bottle at me." He goes, "It's okay. You feel better for it. You're a better man for it, aren't you?"
Josh,
All right,
nice
folks.
seeing you again, crazy man.
1732 Lakeshore Road, Wilson Hill Pistol Club, meeting next Wednesday night, 7 o'clock.
That's it.
We'll see you next Wednesday night, folks.